The sun barely rises over the devastated cityscape, casting long, haunting shadows over the ruins of what was once a vibrant European town. The air is thick with the stench of smoke, mingled with the acrid scent of burned flesh and crushed dreams. The once bustling streets, now silent and desolate, are lined with the skeletal remains of buildings, their charred frames jutting out like the bones of some forgotten beast. Windows that once gleamed with reflections of everyday life are now empty, their glass shattered by bombs and the violent shake of war. The ground beneath is littered with debris, fragments of stone, bits of glass, torn clothing, and the remnants of lives abruptly interrupted. There is no sense of hope in the air, only the chilling silence that follows devastation. In the midst of this bleak landscape, a small figure huddles in the shadows, barely visible against the backdrop of broken concrete and twisted metal. A young girl, no older than 8, her body thin and fragile from months of hunger and fear, crouches behind a half-collapsed wall. Her face, once full of life and curiosity, is now etched with a mixture of dirt, grief, and fear. Her eyes, large and wide, are dull and hollow, reflecting nothing but the emptiness that surrounds her. Her cheeks are gaunt, and her hair, once carefully braided, now hangs in matted clumps around her face, unkempt and unwashed. Her clothes, torn and ragged, hang loosely on her small frame, a testament to the harshness of the world she has been forced to endure. The girl has learned to move like a shadow, never fully visible, always cautious, always alert. She knows the world is no longer a place where safety exists, where love or kindness can be expected. The world around her has been torn apart by the brutal forces of war, leaving only a landscape of despair and violence. Her memories of a time when her world was full of laughter, of family, of warmth, have long since faded into the distance, replaced by the cold, unforgiving reality of survival. She no longer remembers the sound of her mother's voice or the smell of freshly baked bread. All she knows now is fear, hunger, and the desperate need to remain unseen. For the past several months, she has lived in this ruined city, moving from one hidden spot to the next, always keeping to the shadows, always avoiding the soldiers who patrol the streets. She has seen the horrors of war firsthand, witnessed the cruelty that human beings can inflict upon one another. The violence is everywhere, soldiers raiding homes, ripping apart families, taking whatever they please. The girl's family is no more. She was separated from her parents when the soldiers came through her neighborhood, their guns raised and their voices loud. Her mother had shoved her into a small cupboard and told her to stay hidden, to stay quiet. She never saw her mother or father again after that day. She hasn't seen anyone from her old life since the war began, and she wonders, with a tinge of guilt, if they are even still alive. She clutches a ragged doll tightly in her arms, her only possession. It was a gift from her mother, something to hold on to, a reminder of a time when there was love and safety. But now, the doll is just another object of comfort in a world that has no comfort. The girl's fingers curl around its worn fabric, the familiar feel of it offering her a fleeting sense of security in an otherwise terrifying world. It is her only companion in this endless landscape of ruin, her only connection to the past. She whispers to it sometimes, as though it might offer her the answers she seeks or help her find the strength to keep going. The sounds of distant gunfire and explosions echo in the background, a constant reminder of the conflict that has consumed everything. The girl has learned to tune out the noise, to ignore the screams of the wounded and the shouts of soldiers. The war is all around her, but she is a ghost, moving through it unnoticed, like the crumbling walls of the city she now calls home. There is no place to hide, no place to feel safe. Every corner she turns is filled with potential danger. The streets are filled with scavengers and soldiers, and while some of the civilians have turned to helping one another, most are too fearful or too broken to offer anything of value. The girl's stomach growls with hunger, a constant companion that gnaws at her from within. She hasn't eaten in days, and the thought of food feels like a distant memory, a luxury she can no longer afford. Her eyes scan the street ahead, watching as a group of soldiers marches by. They are loud and boisterous, laughing among themselves as they trample over the remains of a once thriving marketplace. The girl feels the familiar lump of fear rise in her throat. She knows the soldiers' cruelty firsthand. They are not just soldiers, they are occupiers, invaders, and to them, she is nothing more than a nuisance, a burden to be discarded when no longer needed. She has seen them take what they want, beating anyone who dares resist, and leaving a trail of broken bodies in their wake. She has learned to be invisible, to slip through the cracks, to keep her presence undetected. The girl presses her back against the cold stone of the wall, holding her breath as the soldiers pass. She can hear their footsteps, heavy and deliberate, echoing in the empty street. Her heart races, her body trembling with fear. She tries to quiet her breathing, but it is difficult when her body is betraying her. Every nerve is on edge, every sound seems amplified. She doesn't dare move, not even a fraction. She knows better than to make a sound. She waits and waits and waits. The soldiers pass, oblivious to her presence, their laughter growing fainter as they move down the street. The girl exhales in a quiet, shaky breath, her body slumping with relief, though the fear still lingers in her bones. She dares to look around the corner, scanning the street for any signs of danger. It seems safe for now, but she knows that safety is fleeting in this world. She quickly moves from her hiding spot, her movements cautious, calculated. She keeps her eyes on the ground, avoiding eye contact with anyone who might notice her. She's learned not to trust anyone. The few who still wander the streets are either too desperate to help or too afraid to do anything but protect themselves. The girl has seen them, those who would turn a blind eye, those who would look away to avoid the responsibility of helping another human being. Her stomach growls again, louder this time, a painful reminder of her hunger. She looks around, trying to find something, anything, that might satisfy the gnawing ache inside her. She spots a half-empty can of food discarded in the corner of a nearby alley. Her heart races with hope, but it is quickly dashed as she realizes it has already been looted. Nothing is left. She sighs, her shoulders slumping in defeat. She has been here before, searching for scraps, hoping for something, anything, that could keep her alive for one more day. It's a cycle that never ends, a game of survival where the odds are always stacked against her. As she turns to leave, her eyes catch something, a small piece of bread, half crushed but still recognizable. The sight of it fills her with a strange mix of excitement and caution. She hesitates, wondering if it is safe to take. But the hunger inside her is too great, and before she can stop herself, she moves towards it, her hands shaking as she picks it up. She bites into it, the dry, stale texture rough against her tongue, but it is food, and for a brief moment, she feels something close to satisfaction. It's not much, but it's enough to keep her going. For now. The moment is fleeting, though, and the weight of the war presses down on her once again. She feels a strange emptiness within her as she chews, a hollow ache that no amount of food can fill. She wonders if it will ever end, this endless cycle of violence and loss. Will there ever be a day when she can walk outside without fear? When she can see the world not through the eyes of a survivor, but through the eyes of a child? She doesn't know. All she knows is that the war is here, and she must keep going, keep hiding, keep surviving. In the distance, the sound of a car engine breaks through the silence. The girl looks up, her body tensing. Another vehicle passes by, this time a military truck. The soldiers inside look straight ahead, their eyes not noticing the small figure in the street, her face barely visible. The girl's heart skips a beat as she watches them go. For a brief second, she wonders if they, too, are indifferent to her suffering, or if they are simply too busy with their own mission to care. The truck disappears around the corner, and once again, she is alone, a solitary figure in a city consumed by war. She takes another bite of the bread and walks deeper into the ruins, disappearing into the shadows, unsure of what tomorrow will bring. All she knows is that she must keep moving, keep hiding, keep surviving. And so, the cycle continues, as it always has, as it always will. The tension in the streets of the ruined city thickens with every passing moment, like an invisible force that presses down on the fragile lives left behind by the war. A cold, harsh wind sweeps through the remnants of what was once a thriving community, now reduced to a maze of crumbling buildings, decaying streets, and a haunting emptiness that echoes the ghosts of a once bustling neighborhood. The air is heavy with the scent of destruction, a blend of burned-out rubble, mildew, and the faint stench of decay. The city is a shadow of itself, its pulse silenced by years of relentless conflict. Yet, the girl hides in the shadows, seeking shelter in the quietest corners of this crumbling world, always aware of the cruelty that may lurk just around the corner. She moves through the streets like a wisp of smoke, her small body hidden in the crevices of bombed-out buildings, crouching low behind walls, always watching, always waiting. The girl knows every alley, every crack in the pavement, every half-collapsed doorway that could offer her brief refuge from the danger that lurks on every street. She has become a silent observer of this new world, a world where every sound could signal impending doom, where every moment is fraught with uncertainty. Her eyes scan the horizon with a quiet, practiced vigilance, darting from shadow to shadow, from building to building. She knows that being seen is a luxury she cannot afford. The streets are filled with the remnants of conflict. The remnants of lives lost, of families torn apart, of homes destroyed. Occasionally, she comes across a group of people searching for food or supplies, their faces gaunt, their bodies broken, their eyes hollow with desperation. Most of them are too absorbed in their own suffering to notice her, but some of them do, eyes that flicker with fleeting hope or suspicion, eyes that have learned to distrust everyone. The girl has learned to keep her distance. She has no friends here, no family. Only the streets, the ruins, and the shadow of hunger that follows her wherever she goes. The soldiers, however, are a different breed. Their presence is inescapable, like a constant thunderstorm that hangs in the air, its ominous rumbles growing louder with every passing day. The girl has seen them before, marching through the streets with heavy boots, their uniforms immaculate and their faces stern. They carry weapons that glint ominously in the dull light, their rifles slung over their shoulders as they patrol the desolate city with an air of authority. To the girl, they are the embodiment of everything that has brought about this nightmare. Their boots crush the remnants of life beneath them, their eyes indifferent to the suffering they cause. She has seen them raid homes, drag people out of their hiding places, beat them senseless, and leave them to die in the street. She has witnessed the cold detachment with which they take what they want, whether it be food, valuables, or human lives. The girl watches them from behind a pile of rubble, her heart hammering in her chest. A group of soldiers are approaching, their footsteps rhythmic and heavy, their voices gruff as they speak in low, guttural tones. She knows better than to make a sound, to draw attention to herself. She presses her back against the stone wall, her breath coming in shallow gasps. Her body trembles with fear, but she dares not move. The soldiers are close now, their shadows stretching across the street like dark fingers reaching for her. She can hear their laughter, a harsh, cruel sound that echoes through the hollow streets. It is a laughter that fills the air with a sense of power, of control, and of absolute indifference to the lives they destroy. The girl clutches the ragged doll to her chest, a pathetic attempt to hold on to something, anything that feels real in this nightmare. She knows the doll will not protect her, but it is a small piece of the life she once had, a life that now seems like a distant dream. The soldiers' laughter grows louder as they approach, their voices mingling with the sounds of destruction that permeate the air. They stop in front of a nearby building, the one where the woman had been caught scavenging just hours earlier. The girl knows what will happen next. She has seen it too many times before. The soldiers pull the woman out of the doorway, her arms flailing as she tries to break free. She is older, her face lined with the marks of hardship and years of struggle. She had been one of the few who dared to defy the occupation, gathering food for her family in the dead of night. But now, she is no more than a puppet in the hands of the soldiers, her body dragged through the dust as they laugh and jeer. The girl watches from her hiding place, her eyes wide with horror. She can hear the woman's screams as the soldiers shove her to the ground, their boots stomping on her frail body. The girl feels a knot form in her stomach, her hands trembling as she presses the doll harder against her chest, her throat tight with the choking weight of helplessness. The soldiers' laughter echoes through the empty street, their harsh voices mingling with the sound of violence that fills the air. The girl squeezes her eyes shut, unable to watch any longer, but she can't help but hear it, the sickening thud of boots against fragile bones, the sickening sound of the woman's cries being drowned out by the mocking voices of the soldiers. She wants to scream, to run, to do something, but she knows it is pointless. She is just a small, powerless child, caught in the crossfire of a war she doesn't understand. Finally, the soldiers leave, their laughter fading into the distance, leaving behind only the broken woman and the girl hiding in the shadows. The street is still, save for the faint sound of the wind stirring the dust, a ghostly reminder of the violence that has just taken place. The girl doesn't know if the woman will survive, or if anyone will help her. She knows only that this is the world she now inhabits, a world where cruelty is the norm, where violence is a way of life, and where survival is the only thing that matters. The girl slowly emerges from her hiding place, her heart still racing in her chest. Her mind is a whirl of confusion and fear. She has learned to expect cruelty from the soldiers, to brace herself for the worst whenever they are near. But even she is not prepared for the indifference with which they treat life, for the way they discard it as if it is nothing more than a disposable commodity. It is as though the world has lost all meaning, as if there is nothing left but survival, and even that is uncertain. Her eyes linger on the street where the soldiers had been, the place where the woman had been beaten and left to die. The girl knows she should move on, keep searching for food, keep hiding. But she can't shake the image of the woman's crumpled form, the brokenness that she herself feels mirrored in the other's suffering. There is no one to help, no one to care. In this world, kindness is a luxury, something that doesn't exist in the wasteland the girl now calls home. She turns away, her mind still reeling from what she has just witnessed. She knows she must keep moving, keep searching, keep hiding. It is all she can do. There is no place for pity in this war. There is no place for anything except survival. The soldiers will be back. The violence will continue. And the girl, small and alone, will remain hidden, a silent observer in a world that has forgotten how to be kind. The city, once teeming with life, now feels like a ghost of its former self, a place frozen in time. The buildings, blackened by fire, lean at unnatural angles, as though the very foundation of the earth beneath them is too broken to hold them upright. The air is thick with dust and smoke, a constant reminder of the violence that has torn through every corner of the city. The sounds of distant gunfire and explosions still echo through the streets, but they are distant, like a far-off nightmare that has faded into a cruel, ongoing reality. In the midst of this destruction, the girl moves through the ruins with the quiet precision of someone who knows how to survive in a world that has forgotten what peace looks like. She knows this place well, better than she knows her own body. She has learned to navigate the broken streets, the alleyways, the gaps between ruined walls. Every corner holds the potential for danger, but also the possibility of shelter, of a place to rest, of a moment to catch her breath. It's in these brief moments of solitude, when she's hidden away from the soldiers, from the world, that she dares to remember what it felt like before the war came. Before the streets were empty and the sky was full of smoke. Before the laughter and warmth of a family were replaced with fear, hunger, and loneliness. Today, however, something feels different. There's a change in the air, a quiet tension that hangs like a veil over everything. It's not the usual tension of soldiers marching through the streets, or of civilians whispering in hushed tones about the horrors they've witnessed. It's something else, something that makes the girl pause as she steps out from behind a crumbled wall. The faint rumble of engines reaches her ears, muffled by the walls around her. She doesn't know what it is at first. It could be more soldiers, more vehicles, more of the same. But then she hears something else, something she hasn't heard in what feels like a lifetime. The sound of laughter, genuine and free, echoing through the ruins. Curiosity tugs at her. She's learned to avoid soldiers, to avoid anyone who might bring harm, but this laughter, it's different. It doesn't carry the cruel, mocking tone of the soldiers who invade her world. It is warmer, more human. She doesn't know why, but she feels drawn to it. She moves slowly, cautiously, her bare feet barely making a sound as she creeps toward the source. Her heart beats a little faster in her chest, unsure of what she'll find. She peers around the corner of a building, and her eyes widen. A group of soldiers are gathered in the center of a broken square, laughing, talking, and, surprisingly, sharing food. The sight catches her off guard. These aren't the soldiers she's used to, the ones who march through the streets with weapons drawn, their faces cold and expressionless. These soldiers look different. They seem almost unbelievably human. Their uniforms are still the same, their weapons still slung across their shoulders, but there's something about them that makes the girl hesitate. They're not just taking what they want, not raiding, not pillaging. They're sitting together, eating and talking with each other as though they are not conquerors, but people who've simply been caught in the same storm. For a moment, the girl stands frozen in place, unable to move. She watches them with wide, unblinking eyes, her body tense as if she is unsure whether to flee or stay. The soldiers are not noticing her, too absorbed in their conversations and their food, but something in the way they interact is unfamiliar to her. One of them breaks off a piece of bread and tosses it to another, who catches it midair, grinning. The camaraderie, the ease with which they share their meal, seems out of place in a city like this, a city that has known nothing but violence for so long. She knows this moment is fragile, and she shouldn't trust it. She has learned to trust nothing, to expect the worst. But still, she stands there, watching, caught between fear and curiosity. She feels like an intruder, a specter in a world she doesn't belong to, but the warmth of the soldiers' laughter, the way they seem so normal, is almost a beacon in this forsaken place. There is something in their faces that she's never seen in the faces of the other soldiers, something that makes her wonder if maybe, just maybe, not all of them are the same. The sound of a vehicle's engine catches her attention, and she quickly retreats into the shadows, pressing her back against a collapsed brick wall. Her heart pounds in her chest as she peeks around the corner. A large military truck rolls slowly into the square, the engine's hum drowning out the laughter of the soldiers. The truck is unlike the one she's seen before. It's not filled with soldiers in full combat gear, but rather with crates of food, medical supplies, and what looks like aid packages. The sight of it causes a strange stir within her, something between relief and disbelief. In a city where hope has long since abandoned its people, the thought of aid feels like a distant, almost forgotten word. The truck pulls to a stop, and soldiers begin unloading the crates, carrying them over to the others who are still gathered by the fire. She watches, uncertain of what to do. She's used to the idea of soldiers as invaders, as enemies who come to take, to destroy, to control. But this is different. She has seen armies take food from the hungry, but she has never seen them give it away. She doesn't know what to make of it. She wants to move, to run, to leave the area and find a new hiding place, but her feet remain rooted to the spot. Her stomach growls, quietly, painfully, but it's not the hunger that keeps her there. It's the strange sense of possibility that flickers in her chest, something she hasn't felt in a long time. She dares not even whisper the word. One of the soldiers notices her. He's young, perhaps no older than 20, with a boyish face that still retains a sense of innocence, despite the uniform he wears. His eyes lock with hers for a brief moment, and for a split second, time seems to stand still. She can see the confusion in his gaze as he looks at her, as though he doesn't understand why she's hiding, why she's so still. But then, just as quickly, his expression softens. He doesn't shout. He doesn't point a weapon at her. Instead, he walks toward her, slow and deliberate, as though sensing the fragility of the moment. The girl doesn't move. She can feel her pulse in her throat, but she stays still, watching him approach. She doesn't know what to expect. She doesn't know what he wants. But when he reaches her, he doesn't speak a word. He simply offers her a small piece of bread, his hand extended, the warmth of it emanating through the air between them. The girl's eyes flicker between his face and the bread. For a moment, she wonders if this is some kind of trick, a game to see how far she will trust. She's been tricked before, by soldiers, by strangers, by the very world that has abandoned her. But something about this soldier, about the way he stands before her, waiting, not demanding, feels different. Tentatively, her fingers stretch out to take the bread. The soldier's hand doesn't move, and he doesn't pull back as she reaches for it. It is a quiet, strange moment, full of unspoken tension, and yet, in the space between them, there is something akin to kindness. She doesn't know what to do with it, this act of giving, this unexpected gesture that feels like a lifeline in a world that has long since drowned in darkness. She takes the bread. It's stale, dry, and crumbles between her fingers, but it's food, and in this world, food is a currency more precious than anything else. She eats it quickly, without thinking, as though she fears it will disappear if she doesn't consume it all at once. The soldier watches her, his expression unreadable, but there is no malice in his gaze, no hidden agenda. Just silence. When she finishes the bread, the soldier nods, as if satisfied that his simple act of kindness has meant something. He turns and walks back to his comrades, leaving the girl standing there, still uncertain, still trapped in the confusion of this new reality. As the soldier disappears back into the crowd, the girl lingers in the shadows, a strange feeling swelling within her chest. It is unfamiliar, hope, perhaps, or something close to it. The moment passes, and the girl knows she must leave. But as she turns away, her mind is filled with questions. The war still rages, the soldiers still occupy her city, but there is something different now. Something has shifted. It is small, fragile, and easily overlooked, but it is there. She has seen it, touched it, and for the first time in a long while, she dares to wonder if, perhaps, not all the soldiers are the same. Not all the world is lost to cruelty. For the briefest moment, a flicker of warmth, of humanity, has broken through the walls of this war-torn city. And though it may be fleeting, it is enough. The morning light seeps through the thick clouds, casting a muted glow over the war-torn city. It's an unnatural light, as if the very sky is trying to find a way to be kind in a place where kindness is a rare commodity. The girl moves cautiously through the ruins, her small form shadowed by the destruction around her. She's learned that each step must be deliberate, each movement calculated. The slightest misstep could mean exposure, and exposure could mean death. Her once silent footsteps now echo faintly through the empty streets, a reminder that this city, once bustling with life, now holds only the ghosts of the past. Every corner she turns, every alleyway she enters, is a new chapter in her story of survival. Her heart beats a little faster in her chest with each step, the weight of hunger, fear, and loss pressing heavily upon her. She's still processing what happened yesterday. The soldier, the bread, the brief moment of kindness. It's a concept that feels foreign to her, like a dream that disappears the moment she tries to hold on to it. Kindness. She has spent so much of her life running from cruelty that she can scarcely remember what it feels like to be treated with gentleness, to receive anything other than contempt or indifference. The war has taken so much from her, stripped her of her childhood, of her family, and of the world she once knew. In its place is an unrelenting, unfeeling landscape, where survival is the only rule and hope is a fragile thing. Today, the girl walks through the heart of the city, her eyes constantly scanning her surroundings. The street is eerily quiet, save for the soft rustle of wind that sweeps through the wreckage of buildings, scattering dust and debris. The once gleaming shops that line the streets are now darkened shells, their windows shattered, their signs long since taken down. She moves like a shadow, her eyes darting from one corner to the next, always alert, always on edge. There is nothing left of the world she once knew, no laughter, no joy, only the quiet hum of destruction that fills the air. As she moves through the square, she spots a group of people huddled together in the distance. They look familiar, survivors, scavengers like herself. The girl hesitates. She's been taught to avoid groups, to stay as far away as possible from the desperate eyes of those who have nothing left to lose. But something tugs at her, a strange pull she can't explain. She watches them from a distance, trying to make sense of the situation. These are not the soldiers who terrorize the city. These are not the civilians who live in fear. These are people who have learned to survive in the cracks, to hold on to life even when everything else has fallen apart. Her eyes narrow as she sees something that makes her stop. In the center of the group, a large pot of soup simmers over a makeshift fire. The steam rises into the air, and the scent wafts toward her, carrying with it the promise of warmth, of sustenance, of something she hasn't tasted in what feels like an eternity. The girl swallows hard, her mouth dry, her stomach aching in hunger. She has had little to eat these past few days, and the thought of the soup fills her with a hunger so intense it almost hurts. For a moment, she stands frozen, caught between her need for food and the instinct that has kept her alive all this time. The instinct to stay hidden, to remain invisible, to not trust anyone. The world has taught her not to trust, that there are no strangers here, only predators and prey. But the scent of the soup pulls at her, and her body betrays her, urging her forward. She takes a tentative step toward the group, her feet carrying her against her will, as though the hunger in her is stronger than her fear. The survivors don't notice her at first, too absorbed in their meal, too lost in their shared desperation. She watches them, trying to gauge their intentions. They are not soldiers, not the occupiers who have brought so much suffering to her world, but ordinary people like herself. Their faces are worn with the weight of hardship, their eyes hollow with the same emptiness that she has felt for so long. But there is something in the way they sit together, in the way they pass around the food, that feels different. There is a sense of community, of shared humanity, that she hasn't seen in this broken world for so long. One of them looks up, their eyes meeting hers for a brief moment. The girl freezes, her heart racing, her breath caught in her throat. She expects them to shout, to chase her away, to see her as an outsider, as an enemy. But instead, the person smiles, a small, tentative smile, but a smile nonetheless. It is not the smile of someone who has the luxury of peace, but the smile of someone who knows what it means to survive, to hold on to hope when there seems to be none left. The girl feels a strange warmth in her chest, the faintest flicker of something she hasn't felt in so long. It is not kindness, exactly, it is something more complicated, more fragile. It is the recognition of another human being, the acknowledgement that they are all in this together. The person doesn't speak, but instead motions for her to come closer. It's a small gesture, but it is enough to break through the wall of fear that has kept her isolated for so long. She takes a hesitant step forward, unsure of what will happen next. Her eyes dart around the group, watching for any sign of danger. But there is none. There is no malice here, no threat. Just the quiet, steady rhythm of survival, the shared understanding that they are all, in some way, broken by the war. As she draws closer, one of them stands up, holding out a bowl of soup. It's not much, just a thin broth with a few scraps of vegetables and meat, but to the girl, it is a feast. She can hardly believe it. Her hands tremble as she takes the bowl, the warmth of the soup seeping through her fingers. The person who handed it to her smiles again, their expression gentle, and for a moment, the girl feels as if the world has shifted. For the first time in so long, she feels like she belongs somewhere, even if only for a brief moment. She sits down on the ground, her knees pulling up to her chest as she cradles the bowl. She doesn't look up, doesn't speak. She simply eats, the soup sliding down her throat in warm, soothing waves. It is everything she's needed and more. The hunger that has gnawed at her for days seems to vanish, replaced by a deep sense of relief. She savors each spoonful, each drop of warmth that fills her body and comforts her soul. As she finishes the soup, she looks up, meeting the eyes of the person who gave it to her. There is no judgment in their gaze, no pity, only the quiet recognition of another human being trying to survive in a world that has forgotten how to be kind. The girl's throat tightens, and for a brief moment, she almost feels like crying. It's not the kind of tears born of sadness, but of something much more complex. It's the tears of someone who has forgotten what it means to be treated with dignity, to be seen as more than just a survivor. One of the other survivors speaks then, their voice soft and kind. It's not the voice of a soldier or a conqueror, but the voice of someone who has seen the worst of the world and still chooses to reach out to another. "You're safe here," they say, their words simple but they carry weight. "You're not alone." The girl looks at them, her heart swelling with a mixture of confusion and hope. She's heard words like that before, but they always seemed hollow, meaningless. But now, in this moment, they feel real. She wants to believe them, wants to believe that there is still a chance for something better, something more than the constant struggle for survival. She nods, not trusting herself to speak. Words feel too heavy, too risky, in a world where promises are broken as easily as the walls around her. But she knows, deep down, that something has changed. She doesn't know what it is yet, but for the first time in so long, she feels like maybe, just maybe, there's a flicker of hope. It's small, fragile, but it's enough to make her believe that there is still something worth fighting for. The others sit in silence, the world around them crumbling, but for a brief moment, the girl feels like she's not alone in it. She's a small piece of something larger, a part of a fragile human bond that has managed to survive, even here, even now. And as the sun rises higher, casting its pale light over the broken city, she allows herself the rare luxury of believing that maybe, just maybe, the world can still be saved.